of 2,500 exhibitors in Biofach and Vivaness this year, who are going to present themselves to the international trade public. The industry is therefore developing positively and dynamically. We are presently shaping a more ecological future which is fit for our grandchildren. An increasing number of people are deciding in favor of organic food and natural cosmetics. The manufacturers come up with lots of promising innovations. Trade and catering are developing new concepts and ideas. However, at the same time, the industry also experiences a huge transformation process, which is actually pushed by the ongoing digitization, and the industries are also facing lots of new challenges. For instance, raw material procurement, more and more sustainable packaging, or questions for a more sustainable and circular economy. And we're looking forward to seeing you. Thanks a lot. So thanks a lot, Ms. Brunner, for this first outlook. And of course, we don't want to keep you waiting for a long time. I think the colleagues of our partners are already waiting to get started. So the organic food production here too, new companies have joined us. We have an increase of 7% of food processors in 2021 as compared to 2015. It's even 24% more producers. So there's a clear dynamic in the last few years with new actors. So altogether, 17,350 bioprocessors, organic processors, who process organic products. And altogether, these were 100,000 products. I mean, the figure 96,509 products, which have the European organic seal. And now, let us talk about the market. For sure, this is a figure which will be interesting to all of you. What has happened here, and you can also see that after this booming year, 2020, where we had a plus of 22%, on this organic market when people just were at home cooking and eating. So 2021, this boom continued, no longer as much, but this was not to be expected. We have an increase of 5.8% in organic food sales in 2021, which means almost 15.9 or 15.87 billion euros in sales with organic food, and the most dynamic ones continuing to be, like last year, the food retail. And now let us have a look at the expenses and the changes and the purchasing quantities 2021. On the left in orange, the expenses, on the right, the quantities, and usually this works rather in parallel. That means the prices for most of the products have risen a little only, some exceptions being potatoes, for instance, or where prices were lower in the first half of the year, but now they have risen again. And in general, on the whole, we can say so far we've only had slight price increases in the shops. And I already said that the producer prices at a lot of points went up, especially the costs went up. That means much more. And this should change in 2022. So in the shop itself, in order to ensure we can cover the high costs for transport, energy, and so on, we need higher prices there. Wonderful. A dynamic and strong, resilient organic industry, which actually opened up 30 years ago, different food economy, so fit for the grandchildren and also good for the environment, the climate. And I think when we look at the figures, we have managed do that. What the figures already show, the society is willing to have to transform the food industry, and the organic food industry is willing to continue this transformation. Also changed it wonderfully. So the farms actually changed to organic industry, although not to the extent we need to create transformation. Nevertheless, a current survey of the Farm Association shows that 20% of the conventional farms wish to change to organic food. That's a considerable figure and a very clear and good signal. The good news is the society is ready and willing. So what is missing? What is required to change, to transform more farmers? How can we get more organic food into our canteens, into the schools, to the kindergartens, to the hospitals? The one thing is clear, the political framework is not okay. So the last 16 years were rather hostile towards organic food. The coalition contract actually has a different signal and a good target, 30% of organic food by 2030. That's the target of the new government, and we really explicitly welcome it. So it is very an ambitious target, but we are ambitious as well, and we've always been ambitious. But of course, we need more than only a target. We need a specific business plan and how to implement that. Just like this, we also need an organic action plan which promotes the transformation of the food industry with organic as a clear target for a sustainable, climate resilient system, which is fit for the further generations. The figures clearly show organic has what it needs. It works, it has worked for years, and is a tested and proven system. And so far, actually, in spite of and not with politics, the legal framework of the organic regulation, and in addition, and we have a self-funded organic control system for production and processing. And we have organic seed, which is known to the consumer in Germany and also in the European Union. And we have a market which can do more and which can take more raw materials than we produce now. So what do we need as the next few steps? Similar to Agrarmarkt and concerted organic future strategy across all areas with sufficient funding. Because there's one thing we should be aware of: this change, this transformation costs money. Doing it costs much more than as the future Commission for Agriculture really recommended and described. If we fail to do that, it may cost the world for future generations. Here we publish a book which actually came from the print shop yesterday, and you can order it from us, but you can also upload with Organic World.net and the statisticsfeeble.org. And I'm going to show you the most important facts from this book. These are the trends. Our overview chart simply that actually shows the entire book in a nutshell. So we have a growth. We had a growth in the surface and a bigger growth among the producers and a very huge growth in the market worldwide. But that was known, and I think it was a good year for the organic farming. So the countries with the biggest organic area, Australia is number one for a long time. It's not going to change. But there are all of a sudden some Latin American countries have joined us, and India are ahead, and also France. That's the country in Europe with the widest organic food area. That was a huge jump, and so the distribution by continent is similar to what it used to be. But Australia and Oceania is actually losing importance, and Germany is also a part of the top 10. This is number 10 with regards to the organic food space service. This chart shows which countries actually had more than 10% of organic services, and yellow actually are the EU countries. This shows they are quite well on their way. There are a lot of EU countries who have more than 10% share, and by 2030 we want to have 35%. It looks quite good. In Austria is the only country so far which has already reached its target, and in Germany actually appears on this list for the first time with 10.2%. In the meantime, it's 10.8%, as we've heard. And this is the organic space growth worldwide. We can see that it was more this year than it used to be in the last 4 weeks. The biggest leaps before were in Australia, because they changed lots of huge spaces and areas. And now I'm going to talk about the market. We'll see the biggest organic food markets with their market volumes. The United States, 50 million, Germany, France, and the light blue line shows the comparison with regards to the previous year. So we see a wonderful growth everywhere. Once again, the distribution on the left, we can see that Germany and France have account for half of the organic food market, the biggest market worldwide. That's the chart on the right. You can see that the United States still continue to be the strongest internal market, but the European Union is something similar. This shows the market increase worldwide and in Europe, and worldwide now it's 121 billion euros and 14 billion euros more than before. This has never existed before. The exact growth is a bit difficult to calculate because of the fluctuations in currencies, but it was more than 10% in any case. And in Europe, plus 15%, 7 billion more. It's really tremendous. And here you can see the development in the individual countries. The blue line shows the growth rate 2020, and the light blue one, the growth rate 2019. And here you can see that this has a huge level of dynamic. Thanks a lot to Joyce, thanks a lot Helga, and thanks a lot to all participants that we can have this session today, because it's always exciting to see the figures in the beginning of the year and also to understand this order. So the categorization of all these figures, that's my turn, and I would like to comment on these figures, and I would like to bring them in the context of the global politics. And don't need to add that we had a pandemic, you'll know that, but there's also one more thing. We need sustainable food systems which actually level off the effects of the climate crisis. And this is the reason why this term food systems is very important, and they should be stable and resilient against foreseeable climate events, and the success to sustainable food for healthy food for all should be guaranteed. We have learned a lot about the German, the Western market, but when we talk about all of markets, we also talk about the farmers in other parts of the world, and this is exactly the ones who are very vulnerable. The entire planet is vulnerable, and also the food system, nutrition system has become much clearer to us, and COVID-19 has also sharpened our view at one of the biggest global crises we are facing. That's the climate crisis. And the climate crisis, again, actually is another crisis, which is the biodiversity loss. And this, again, in turn, shows how the connections are, how everything is linked. And also agriculture, farming in Germany and Europe, but also in the entire world, is actually a hub for all these crises, but at the same time for the solutions. So consumers understand that implicitly or explicitly. This is what the market data we've just seen show us.
My big thanks to Helga and all the staff in FIBOL for putting together such a comprehensive collection of organic data. That's very important for the sector. It's very important to stimulate new people to convert to organic. It's overall important for the market development. So we are happy as Organic Europe, IFOAM Organics Europe, to contribute every year to this publication, providing a bit of the political context. And it's actually what I will try to do today, to present some data and trying to contextualize them into the EU policy landscape. Organic land is keeping growing in Europe, and although 2020 was a bit slower compared with the previous year, we had a growth of 3.7%, which accounts for 17 million hectares, representing 3.4% of the total land in Europe. Then when we go and look at the EU27, so the European Union, this percentage goes up to 9.2%. So we are talking about 15 million hectares, which are in the EU bloc. And half of these hectares are shared by 4 countries: Germany, Italy, Spain, and France. And I'm glad to say that France is the new champion among the European countries in terms of larger organic agricultural area. So they passed over Spain, which is now at the 2nd place, and Italy, which is at the 3rd place. Increased compared to the year before. So we have a market that in the European continent has reached 52 billion euro, of which 45 billion euro in the EU27 bloc. This makes EU the 2nd largest market after the US and followed by China. So it's a very leading role of the European Union in market developments for organic. Here the champion market-wise is Germany, with a market of about 15 billion euro, followed by France with 12.7 billion euro. And then there is Italy, which is almost a third of the French market, with around 4 billion euro of market. Interesting data comes from Denmark. Denmark is really leading the overall share of food market with 13% of organic share on the national total food market. And another very interesting data is about Switzerland, where we have the highest per capita consumption, not only for Europe, not only for the EU, but really worldwide. Switzerland has about 420 euros spent per person every year in 2020 for organic products. Regulation, the 848/2018, is now finally in place from the 1st of January 2022. But in 2020, many of the rules were still under discussion, giving a lot of uncertainties to those farmers who wanted to invest into organic farming. I mean, the rule were not very clear, so a lot of people wanted to wait until the rule were clear before starting a conversion. And the rule, as I said, were only clear on the 1st of January 2022 when we started the implementation. Another important political element in 2020 was the lack of security about the next common agriculture policy. I mean, the common agriculture policy in Europe is a very important tool that finances also the conversion of farmers towards organic. And in 2020, the discussion were still very intense. There was no clear indication of where we would have gone with the national application of the Common Agriculture Policy. This is actually still not 100% known because the national strategic plans of the Common Agriculture Policy are still under discussion. I think it's also important to mention that in the end of 2019, the European Union has announced the European Green Deal. So an European roadmap to zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. This European Green Deal touched a lot of sector, including food and farming. And in the very first presentation of the European Green Deal, organic was already very prominent. So there was already a lot of expectation of what organic could deliver to Europe in terms of sustainability, in terms of delivering into the Green Deal. The European Action Plan, this is a direct consequence of the Farm to Fork. In the Farm to Fork, we say 25% organic land, we need an action plan to support it, and then we got the action plan. The action plan is built around 3 main axes. The first one is support the demand and to support, let's say, consumer trust to buy organic products. In this axis, we have actions, among other, like enhanced budget for promotion policies to promote organic in Europe and in third country. We are talking about 80 million euro every year to finance project to raise awareness about organic in the EU27 and in third country. Another action I think interesting is an important job that the Commission was to do with member states, regions and cities to enhance organic into public procurement, so to really work to create a new market for organic products made by policymakers. Then going on the axis number 2, promotion of conversion, stimulating the conversion to organic. As I say, the Common Agriculture Policy is expected to play an important role, but also this axis is targeting, for example, the creation of farm advisory services specific for organic to help organic farmers to convert and organic industry to convert to organic. The support of building up organic supply chain, so concrete support to create a new supply chain. encouraging member states to support, for example, the implementation on novelties like the organic district, the biodistrict. So the axis number 3, it's really an axis that wants to position organic as a leading tool to make the overall food system in Europe more sustainable. Among others, I would mention 2 I think are really interesting to action. One, that we will create in Europe a pilot network of climate-positive organic holdings. This network is supposed to share best practices among organic farmers, but also among the overall agricultural community. And then a second one, which I think is also very progressive, among all the overall budget for agriculture and food research, 30% of European money will go to support organic development, with research projects for organic or research projects where organic can give a contribution to the overall sustainability.
The market data, the global market for organic food and drink, that expanded by 15% in 2020. And in terms of revenues, that was $17 billion growth. That's a record year. The organic food and drink market has never increased by such a big growth in its history. So it's been a record year in 2020, and it's mainly because of the coronavirus pandemic. Europe and North America represent 90% of sales, but that share has been going down. If you go to 2000, 3% of global sales were from other regions, now it's 10%. So the market is becoming global, but Europe and North America still represent the bulk of sales. Now, why did we see such record growth in 2020? It was because of the coronavirus pandemic. Because of the pandemic, people were becoming more concerned about their health. They wanted to build up their personal immunity, so they were buying more and more organic foods, not just organic foods, but health foods, supplements. We saw a big rise in sales for those type of products as consumers wanted to boost their immunity. What I want to talk about is the challenges. So the good news is the organic food market has grown to a $129 billion industry. However, there's a lot of challenges on the horizon. On the left-hand side, it's competing products, conventional foods, which are priced lower than organic foods. You've got eco-labeled foods, and now plant-based foods. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the next few slides. But also, there's a challenge from standards. The number of standards is increasing. We're seeing national regulations, national standards. We're seeing more and more private standards, and there's a lack of equivalency between them. As the previous speaker spoke about this, USA has entered a lot of equivalency agreements, but if you go to Asia, you go to Latin America, you go to Africa, there's more and more standards, but a lack of equivalency between them. Plant-based is probably the fastest growing sector in the food industry at the moment, and consumers are moving to more and more alternatives to meat, dairy, and seafood, which are made from plant proteins. And I've just got a few examples of some of the products over here. And these products are not organic. However, if you look at the reasons why consumers are buying these products, they're buying them for health reasons, for animal welfare and the environment. And then you can say concern for antibiotics. So environmental impact, quality, animal health is number 6, and ethical reasons. So the reasons for consumers to buy plant-based foods are becoming the same as for them to buy organic foods. And the challenge there is, how can we keep organic distinct from these competing ethical labels, as well as this new area of plant-based foods?
Then we're looking forward to seeing you. Thanks a lot.